So if any of you have trouble remembering who the speaker is today, we've tried very hard to make it extremely easy for you. My name is Eric, and I'm joined by Eric today. One of us spells our name right. I won't tell you which, but in any case, we both respond well to Eric. Thank you all for joining us today. I hope all of you are here to talk about customer support in the metaverse. That's what we're here to talk to you about today. I'm sure a few of you came because you're trying to figure out for right now, for your own app or for your company, what this metaverse thing is and how do we deal with it. Maybe you came because you're trying to get ready for what's coming, or maybe you just came to because you're curious to hear about what someone else is saying about this rapidly evolving topic of the metaverse. In any case, I hope we entertain you and we have a chance to learn some things together today about the metaverse and the future of support in the metaverse. My name is Eric Vermillion. I'm the CEO of Helpshift. I've spent my entire career in software and technology, and I still remember some other emerging trends that have happened throughout my career, things wild and wacky topics like e-commerce and web commerce, or things like omni-channel support. So I'm excited today to plant some seeds here with all of you about this new and exciting thing called the Metaverse. I'll be giving just a brief intro to Helpshift and then turning it over to the really smart guy in the room, Eric Ashby. Eric is our head of product, and I'll let him briefly introduce himself now before I go into a little bit of background on Helpshift.
Yeah, hi, I'm Eric Ashby. I'm as Eric said, I am the other Eric in this, and so I'm super excited to be talking to everyone today. I've also, like Eric, I've been in the industry since the 90s and have gone through several of these transitions. We'll actually talk about those. But I've been at Helpshift for around 5 years and have been running product, and just really excited to kind of to work on this next transition that the industry is going through. So Eric, back to you.
Great, thanks. We can go to the next slide. All right, I want to tell you a little bit about Helpshift, primarily because I think it will give you all a bit of context on why we believe we're so well qualified to build this solution for the metaverse. Our customers and partners today are largely the ones that are actually building the metaverse today. Many of them are gaming or digital innovation centers, digital innovation studios. Our product today sits on over 3 billion mobile devices that get support through mobile apps using Helpshift today. Many of the largest game publishers and studios use Helpshift to provide support for their customers. That support is provided fully within their mobile app, offering an elegant, secure, and contextual support experience that's fully driven by the user. It's always on, and it works on over 180 languages. And most importantly, it keeps players, or it keeps customers within the app. Presumably, a lot of you are building apps today, and so you know how hard it is to attract and draw people into the app. And at their most vulnerable time, when they need help, when they need support with something, many brands throw them right out of the app and to a website or some other means of communication. Our customers know that the app is an extremely effective way to keep the player or the consumer engaged, keep them in the app, and not let them leave, and provide them with an elegant and a well-orchestrated journey fully within the app. Fundamentally, the metaverse is this parallel digital world that's being created today, where consumers will access through mobile apps or mobile devices. It's fully immersive. It's even more complex, and identity is even harder to manage. So the last thing that anyone's going to want to do is leave that and come back to the physical world to get help when needed. So we're capitalizing on the expertise and the technology that we've built already to expand those capabilities into the metaverse. Eric will talk about that in just a minute. The next slide here is just a small sampling of some of the customers that use Helpshift today to provide that unmatched mobile in-app support that I described to their customers. I think we've got some Helpshift customers on the call today, so thank you for continuing to trust Helpshift, and hopefully today you'll get more of a glimpse of some of the things that we're doing to help innovate along with you. So with that, I'll turn it over to Eric to dive into the metaverse.
Fantastic. And as As we get into this, this really is going to be an open session. We wanted to have this more of a discussion. So, what we'll do as we're going through this, if you have a question, you can just type the question in the thing or raise your hand, and then we'll actually allow you to speak speak, and you can just ask the question that way. And I'm going to ask some questions as we go through this. Eric, also, if you could help kind of monitor these things and jump in with any of the questions that you see that pop up, I would really appreciate that. So, but we want to take a look at what's the nature of the metaverse. We do want to talk about support in the metaverse. I think we have some really unique thoughts and some ideas about that. So then we'll start talking about what does it mean to support, and then how will this look, and then we do want to talk about some products that we are coming out with called Metashift. And so we'll start with that. We'll start with the nature of support. If we could go on the next screen, and I'm actually going to throw this out there. Type in the type in your the little chat there, or raise your hand and tell me what you think the nature of the metaverse is. And we'll see if, because I really want to get some feedback on that. In fact, someone had sent in a question before, and they said, the metaverse is in its early stages, yet it hasn't really been defined yet. And so, I'm wondering, it's just like, how do we, what is this planet that we have? And so this person was thinking that, the nature of the metaverse is kind of like this digital planet. But they're right that it hasn't been defined. So I'm looking for someone else. If you would raise your hand, and we'd be happy to take what your input is. I see some questions here about a fully immersive experience. That's interesting about, when I talk to my family about the metaverse, that's the first thing they think of is that it's this VR. It's this. In fact, when Meta came out, that it's just like, oh yeah, it's all this VR things. Isn't that the metaverse? Or someone just posted that it's a bit like a novel snow crash. I think that's actually pretty funny. I was at, I think probably honestly, the first thing that the myth that I keep hearing is the term "the" in front of the metaverse, as if it is one thing. And I think back back in the 90s, we had this thing called the cyberspace or cyberspace, and everyone was using this term, but nobody really knew what it was. Could you go on the next screen? If you go on the next screen. When I think about the transition that we're making right now into the metaverse, I see it as we've gone through actually these transitions before. And of course, as whenever a transition happens, everybody tries to get on it. So the metaverse what it will be isn't quite there yet. It is still evolving. And so it's like the early stages of cyberspace. So I'm going to go back and talk about cyberspace. So cyberspace was really interesting because you had two things that were going on. You had the PC evolution that was going on, which were people started to have these PC devices. And then you had these early innovators around this new network that was coming out, and that you had like brands could be connected together, and then all of a sudden everybody could be connected. And so it was kind of those two things came together in the emergence of what was cyberspace. But cyberspace didn't just magically appear. It was an emergence that came out of that existing technology. And then of course, cyberspace grew up into the cloud transformation of the 2000s. But what has been happening lately has been the mobile revolution that we've seen in the 2010s, where all of these mobile and distributed devices that have been coming out. And you add to that the new technology around blockchain and the NFTs and these new distributed technologies, and of course, Web 3.0, and you have basically the prime elements for yet this next evolution. But like cyberspace, it's not going to magically appear. It's going to be an evolution of where we are today. And so, really, when I think about the metaverse, it's really an evolution to these more immersive experiences. Could you go on to the next screen? It's really an evolution to these new new immersive experiences that, if you think about the phones intended to be immersive, but consumers are going to want more immersion. And so how do we get those? And these devices are going to be more powerful. So you're going to start to see that. And it's also going to be these parallel and persistent digital worlds that you have where instead of having a single experience, you could actually start an experience and have it run while you're away. And there's going to be a lot of enablers out there. You think about these technologies like the NFTs and self-sovereign identities, and these decentralized organizations. They're going to enable you to have new services that just couldn't exist before. And what's super exciting about this is this is going to create some new economies. And so a lot of people are trying to look at what these new economies will be. So this is a new paradigm that we'll have to think about, like, what is this world that we're in? What is this virtual world that we'll be in? What's this virtual self that I may have? What's this different, this different environment? What's this land that I may own that's actually just virtual land? And how does that correlate with my own world? And so I put on here really the sky is the limit of what the metaverse will be, because it really is it really is this thing that we haven't yet defined. So there could be some things that we haven't even thought about now that really could exist. We had a couple other comments about the nature of the metaverse, where it's decoupling our physical space and our digital space. And the decentralization is going to be really important also from a financial point of view, because you don't have to rely on a central authority for that. And I think that's going to be a very enabling thing. So thanks for all those comments. With great power comes great responsibility. And so I'd like to actually before I get into that, one other thing that if you can go on the next slide, there is a question that when you think about this, that like, is it really going to happen? And it is, this transition will happen. And why it's going to happen is because there is the economy behind it. And that's really what's the driving force. Gaming is driving most of it right now, but you're seeing all of these other industries that are getting into it: entertainment, fashion, the finance, the corporate, all of those are getting into it. And so as you see these economies grow, then that's going to continue to drive that. And of course, there's huge benefits to these brands to create these more immersive, rich experiences. And consumers are going to love it because they're going to have more control and more power. So yes, it is a transition that will happen. It's just really a question about what happened. And so now, like I said, with great power comes great responsibility. And so if you go on the next slide, which brings to the next question. So great, we have this new environment. Is it all going to be, roses and flowers and things like that? Or is it going to cause problems that arise, especially around support? And so I'm going to open that question up, just like the last one. I'm going to look for comments that have, again, we had some previous post of comments, but I'd love to see, what do you think support is going to be like, or what are the problems that could arise with support in here? Especially since we're going to be in a whole new world, in a whole new environment. So as you're thinking about that, I'm going to pull up a couple of the comments. One of the things that we see here, in fact, this is interesting about one of the questions that came in is, actually, here's an interesting one. Someone said the identification of who is asking for the support. And that's really interesting because, like, you're in the metaverse, like, who's who? We're all these digital identities. One thing that we got before someone was asking about support is also, what about, if you use customer service and support for this new concept of telemedicine, how is that actually going to work? And I think that does make sense. And bugs and crashes, this is going to be a lot of new technology. I think that's really going to be interesting. Trust authentication, that keeps coming up. So that's really interesting. Go on to the next slide, if you could. That a lot of this is that if you get into the metaverse, there is this all of these are new things. And so there's going to be new support. You've got these decentralized assets that we've never had before. How are we going to support those? And with that, what is the land that we own? How do we support that? the identities that's come up. People have asked about that. How are we going to support that? And everything's decentralized. So if you don't have a central authority, who is the one who you're going to have to be able to go to if there's a question about a transaction or things like that, if it's been decentralized. And then you have these different worlds, these different experiences. If you assume that support can be the same in these experiences, and that really is problematic, because as we did this transition before, you think about the transition to the cyberspace. When cyberspace came out, support had to transition to the cyberspace world. But what was interesting is that when we transitioned from cyberspace to the mobile revolution, most of the support didn't do that transition. And we see that today. Could you go on to the next slide? So what we saw is that even though there was an evolution of most consumers to a mobile experience, support stayed in cyberspace. And so most of the mobile experiences today, a lot of them, instead of like having an in-app experience, they send you back to a website, or they send you back to email. And so the user has to leave the app. It's less immersive. It can be slow. They have to wait. It's not personal. Support often doesn't know who they are. In fact, that's a problem that you're going to have in the metaverse. And you have this messy handoff between the agent, because you're not sure who this person really is, especially if you've gone out of the app. And in fact, at that point, they just leave the app and they go. And so if the transition didn't happen between the cyberspace revolution and the mobile, as we transition to the metaverse, support doesn't come along, we're going to have that same, it's just going to get worse. And in fact, we're already seeing that. If you can go on the next slide, we're already seeing that. We're seeing that some of these early metaverse experiences, some of these VR experiences that are out there, they require, if you have a problem, to take off the VR, which is the last thing you want to do, is get them out of the experience and go to a website, or go to these, again, 2 decades old experiences that you have to do. And so support will absolutely need to move forward and evolve to be a part of this. And that's really what we've been thinking, what we've been thinking about at Helpshift, is what's support really going to look like? And so that's when we look at what does it need to evolve. You need to provide in the metaverse an easy path for users to be able to give feedback, because you're going to be in this new environment. They're going to be in a new environment. So they have to give feedback of what's working and what's not for them. And support's going to need to start taking advantage of the blockchain technologies. The experience has to be immersive. You have to engage with the user on their terms, where they're at, which is in the metaverse, and not force them to leave the metaverse to go anywhere out, which means that if you have a VR experience, then you should be in VR. And not all metaverse experiences will be VR. You'll have experiences that are on mobile phones, or you'll have them on a laptop or things like that. But there's still these immersive experiences that you want to keep the consumer in. And this needs to be worked without these central authorities. So you have to have a decentralized experience. And so I think this is really kind of the nirvana vision that we are going to have to work towards as we go into the metaverse. The good news is this opens up to some amazing things, and we'll talk about like what does that open up. If you could go on the next slide here, just real quick. So from a brand's point of view, they are looking to have this successful support experience. What the brand does is they create engaged, immersed in an immersion experience. They're executing on a promise, so they have an experience that's personalized, it's fast, it's simple, it's stable, good design, it's all available, and of course in the metaverse it's secure. What they need is as they're building that, they need to add the in-app support with that, or the VR support, and it needs to be plugged into all of this. So I think we have a little video that shows what this actually really means, of what this could be. in, and if you could just hit play here for just a second, and I'll kind of talk everybody through this. So just imagine that I'm in, this is a VR experience, but it could be a 3D experience or whatever, and I'm in a mall. I might be a VIP person, and one of the common things I might want to do is go buy the new avatars for the month, and as a VIP person, I actually get access to a special set of avatars, and so I'm going to go into the VIP I'm going to go into the avatar store. I'm going to go up and check out kind of their avatars and look around. And when I look, I see the VIP avatars here, and there's none there. And I'm like, well, wait a second. I see the classic avatars, but not the VIP avatars. And let me check. And yeah, the classic avatars are here. So I like something's wrong, and I don't know what's wrong. Now, at this point, I'd have to take off my VR headset. But if you do an in-world support, what's great is you can actually have an object in the world. Your customer service object can be right here, and it can provide you self-help like FAQs or things like that. Or you could actually chat with it. You can have it come up, and it can give you, here you could use text to speech, so that you can input into it and have it run run a bot, or have it actually use AI to recommend a solution. Or maybe you can even connect to an agent directly and have an agent then appear here, and you can talk to a live human agent one-on-one. But you can see this experience is an in-world experience, and it's very contextual. It knows who I am. It didn't ask me who I was. It knows who I am. It knows where I am. It knows the problems that I have. And so it's all right here. And so, in fact, one of the questions is kind of a technical question about how would this actually be done? And so if you think about it, this could be done by actually having these objects as assets in some of the common tools like Unity or Unreal. And these assets can be dropped in to your game or into the world. And then they would support, they would already have all of this capability as part of that. One of the questions is it Mac or Windows? And that would be supported. Again, this is a prototype that we're working on, but that's one of the things that they could do. So that's an example of what an in-world experience might look like. One of the other things, if you could go onto the next slide, in addition to kind of these immersive experiences, you can take advantage of using the blockchain. Like, one of the things that came up was a lot of the questions like, well, how do we do identity and things like that? Well, it's one of the great things about the metaverse is it has these self-sovereign identities that people can prove they are who they say they are, and you can trust what their digital identity is. And so you can actually leverage the blockchain for fraud prevention and identity verification, fraud prevention and identity verification, because you can prove who they are or what assets that they actually do have. So when somebody contacts support, hey, look, this is a level 35 player, or this is a person who is a member of this bank, and I could actually use their wallet in the blockchain to validate what they actually have to be able to have support on. So this actually opens up some really cool support capabilities that honestly doesn't exist today. You can actually make support more secure, which brings us to the next one, which you can, it's like you add these together. And one of the other promises of what the metaverse could be, because you have all these decentralized services, support itself could be a decentralized service. And so that means that support problems actually are free to be solved by anyone and to be passed around, and they're also protected and owned by the user. So imagine that that a person has a problem, they create the problem in the metaverse. It's their problem, and they can take it to the store and say, hey, look, I can't buy this thing, whatever it is that they're buying. The store could look at the problem and say, yeah, I can see you can't buy it, but it's because the bank is declining your credit card. That problem can then be transferred over to the bank in a secure way as part of these, as part of a DAO that could manage this, could actually go over to the bank, and then the bank can look at it and say, okay, yeah, this is a problem because the card was, maybe it's expired or whatever, but they can take care of that. Or you could even have agents that are there to support, that can provide support. They don't even have to be hired by the brand. They can be independent agents, and they then can support these objects that are in the metaverse. And so it really creates a new economy around what support can do. with that. So it's really a lot of great things that that can be done with the metaverse now and these things. And there's a couple comments about that was made about the the disconnection of the experience, and also a question was like, what blockchain will it be? I think that's a good question right now about like what blockchain is it, because there's will it be on the Ethereum blockchain or some others? I think that's still one that is these blockchains are evolving. I think we will probably be announcing as we come out with our support. In fact, I'll show you in a few slides what we will be supporting here around that. So in fact, and then there's another question about this, is like, how can you ensure the quality of the answers if everyone can answer? Can you just go back a second? This is really interesting. We just talked about this a little bit for a decentralized support system, because if you have this, let's just imagine that you now have this economy where you have a support ticket that gets created. Someone else who's not the brand could actually answer it, and then when they answer it, you could have the brand actually score that. How well was this actually answered or not? And the brand, in fact, because there's economy, the brand could actually pay the person how well that they did. So you could actually include some sort of Q&A that goes on that. Or the support, the brand actually, instead of just opening it up to anybody, they actually have agents that they have certified as people that could do it. And so someone could actually make it their job to become certified in certain technologies. A brand would then certify them. They would now have the token that says, okay, they're certified to answer questions about this. And then they then would be measured monthly or whatever. And so it really creates some new interesting experiences. So all right. Well, thank you for all of the questions there. And Eric, was there anything else that came in that I was missing along the before we go into this?
I don't think so. There was an early question about how do we make the metaverse. I think it was more about safety for kids and support for younger people and the challenges around that. I'm not sure if that got answered.
Yeah, I don't think it did. And let's just talk about that for a little bit. You have these self-sovereign identities. In the metaverse, when you have these identities, the identities will not necessarily identify who you are as a person. So it's not like, okay, here's an avatar and this is Eric who owns it, or things like that. What these self-sovereign identities can do is they can identify qualities or capabilities or context about who you are. So for example, you could actually have this self-sovereign identity say, look, this is somebody who is over 18. You don't need to know anything else about them. You know that their avatar, ABC123, maybe they're a pink unicorn avatar, and that they have shared that they're over 18, and there's actually a verifier that you can go and verify that they're over 18. You don't need to know anything else about them. And so you still protect the users, you're still protecting the users' anonymity, but you're also protecting, you can also then confirm, hey, look, this is somebody who's over 18, so they may get an experience, or this is a minor. And so therefore we have different rules around minors that we have. And so, so that's just a really interesting thing that can also be done. And that's a challenge today with support that can be handled with some of these new identities that will be coming up. So, all right. Was there anything else that I missed in that?
No, I don't think there was, Eric.
All right. Well, thanks. All right. So I think the last thing, I appreciate all the comments that has come up. We do want to introduce Metashift. This is specific work that we are actually working on at Helpshift. We're calling it Metashift, and there's 3 phases that we have planned for this year. There's many more phases that we'll do, and I'll talk about each one just briefly so that we can share some of the technology that's coming out. The first phase, which is actually coming out within the next month, is all about capturing feedback. We think this is super important as we go through this next phase of transition, to be able to capture that feedback from the consumers as they start to have these new experiences. So we will actually be having a free version of Helpshift that is geared specifically for feedback. And that's going to be released on May the 3rd. And that you can actually start initially on mobile and AR. That's going to be out. And then later on in the year, as we come out with the VR experiences, then we'll have that capability there. This is in addition to our existing AI-driven support that we have today already for mobile and AR experiences. So we do have a complete in-app customer service support experience that includes self-help, AI, bots, chat, and that is fully integrated with your support and CRM platform. So today you can actually get started with an AR VR experience. I'm sorry, with an AR and mobile experience. You can do support and you can get feedback. The feedback, like I said, will be free as part of a release that we're having on May the 1st. And that's kind of the phase one. The phase two that we'll be coming out with is going to be the support for the blockchain. And what we'll be doing here is that as your app is say, maybe it might be issuing NFTs or you might be supporting self-sovereign identities. When someone comes in through support, they can leverage their wallet to present those to support, and we will go validate those against the blockchain. And the question had come, well, what blockchain would we do? And I think that is really going to be based on the app, kind of what it's using to store its items in. So I don't think we've said, oh, we will only support this one. But the idea is that we will be validating those so that the agents then will have presented to them, this is who this person is. Here is what their identity or the information about them that can be shared. Here's the NFT assets that they own. And we can also do this. We can actually validate their identity against legacy federated identity providers. Like as we're doing this, we can also look to see if they have a Google ID or a Microsoft ID. And what's interesting is that if they don't have one of these new self-sovereign identities, we could also actually issue them an identity. And this is something that we're looking at, is can we issue them a support identity so that the next time they do come, they then already have one of these identities, so that we can say, yes, we know this person, we've seen them before, we know everything that we need to do about them. And this prevents then fraud from somebody coming in and saying, hey, look, I've was here and this is who I am, when in reality I'm not. And so the advantage of this is it's going to make the system much more secure, and it's going to give much more context for your agents to understand who they're talking to and what they have. And that's phase two. We're looking at over the summer, end of Q2, Q3, and then of course the VR in-world support coming out with native Unity and Unreal assets. That these are just be objects that you can just place within your world experiences that have this capability built into it, and then connects to the back end customer support systems that you will have. And so with this, then you'll have a full modern support system that works on mobile, AR, and VR, and gives you the in-world thing. So this is all Metaverse. You can, if you're interested in it now, you can start looking at the feedback capabilities or the support capabilities that you can have right now on mobile and on AR, or you can sign up for what we'll be releasing in the future. So that's Metaverse, and I just want to thank everybody for all their comments. And if you do have other questions, we'll be happy to take them at this time.
Hey, Eric, one just came in there.
Okay. Will the in-app feedback be customizable in Helpshift dashboards? Can I capture different questions in the feedback, and how will you export it? So, and someone says Ready Player One. Here we come. I knew there would be a Ready Player comment. I actually make it kind of a yearly mission of mine to read the Ready Player books. I used to have to read just Ready Player One. Now I have to read Ready Player One and Ready Player Two every year. I do that around the start of the year. But as for the questions, we actually have we have several versions. The free version of feedback is we'll just have pre-built in questions around reporting a bug, a suggestion, make a suggestion, and rate the app. And those will just kind of be pre-canned ones. Helpshift itself, we actually have now feedback bots that can be used to customize any sort of feedback that you want and captured. And then there's already the data APIs that are within Helpshift that can take any of that data and then export it out to whatever system that you want to do, or plug it into the reporting tools that they have. So anyways, that's that. And the next question was, would this be available for smart contracts that uses the blockchain? That is interesting. Amit has asked this. I don't know, because that's actually a good question that I think that we need to look into. It would make sense now that I think about it, but I don't know that. I think that'd actually be really interesting, and something. Another question says, if MS will issue own identities, can we choose the blockchain we want to use, or will the blockchain be provided by Helpshift? So I don't know if MS will issue its own identities. I don't know if you meant if Helpshift will issue its own identities. Can we choose the blockchain? And so what we're looking at there for the identities that we would issue is just if there doesn't exist one, then that's just being done as a way to help kind of bridge the gap where not everybody has these blockchain identities right now. And I think so the question is, Metashift issues the own identities. And so there's kind of a, there's just an onboarding problem that you have right now. It's like, well, yeah, we support the blockchain, but not everybody has blockchain identities. So what do we do? And so it really is to help address that. If they have an identity already, then that's really what we want to do. And so there's like their European identities that are starting to come out. We'll look at that. Actually, we've been in contact with Microsoft that's also trying to make some interesting identities there. So there is some work to be done in like, what are all the identities? And I think we need to work with brands that are kind of forefront on this. So can you give a sense of what the agent experience would look like? Anna, that's actually a great question. I didn't even show the agent experience. My intent here is that I want to make the agent experiences as simple as possible. And what would be great is if you could leverage the existing infrastructure that's out there today. You have agents that are sitting here answering live chats, or they're answering phone calls or answering video chats and things like that. Those agents should actually be able to be plugged right in. And so that was kind of why we had this experience where we showed the bot with a chat. Now, imagine that if there's an agent on the other side, they'd be able to have a chat, or that agent would be able to start up a VR, and you could actually have a VR window pop up. Not a VR, a video, and a video window would pop up, and it's just the agent there. And so what we definitely want to make it as non-disruptive for the agents as possible. Otherwise, it will take it a long time for us to then convert the entire agent experience on over. So everything that we're building is really to try to plug into the existing infrastructures that have been built out, honestly, over the past 30 years. So question, how will this work in AR? Would the same technology be used in the prototype with the VIP outfits? So Johnny, that's a good question. So in AR today, kind of depends on the device that you're using. If you're using a mobile phone, it's actually really easy to move. Like, you can have an object like a question mark, a question box or whatever. You click on that and it just swaps over. And then you have kind of the experience on your phone. If you've ever played Pokemon Go, you can see it does that. It kind of swaps between in-world and phone and in-world and phone. And so you have a little bit more freedom there. I think we're going to have to play around with it given the different devices, but AR probably is going to be on a mobile phone because you're walking around in the world. And so I think that's probably the way it's going to be, but I think there's going to be some design things we'll have to do. And that's what we do today for AR is you're in the AR, you have a problem, you click on a little button or whatever, and it flips over to kind of your standard phone experience. So, well, this has been interesting. Thank you, everybody, for all of your comments. Eric, thank you for kind of moderating and hosting everything. So,
any other questions before we wrap up? Okay. Well, if you do, you can certainly send follow-up questions to Eric or I. Eric can be reached at erik@helpshift.com, and I'm ERICV at helpshift.com, or you can connect with us on LinkedIn. Thank you all for sharing your time with us today. The recording and presentations will be made available to you. If you want to review any part of it or share it with others in your organization, there are a couple of possible actions that I hope you'll take today after this. Head on over to our website and sign up for the Metashift waitlist. I think, one of the last questions that came was about the agent infrastructure, the existing infrastructure. And I think a lot of companies are trying to figure out, how do we get ourselves ready for this whole metaverse transition? So this is a good way to, ensure your readiness with minimal effort. So in a few weeks, you'll get details after you sign up on how to access the product, and the launch will give you some really great automation, basic feedback capabilities that'll help you ensure your players or your customers have a way to tell you or your product team what they love or don't love about your app and game. And the best part is we're launching this as a completely free tool. And secondly, the other action that you take is, if you have a mobile app already today and don't believe that you're using that mobile app to deliver a world-class support experience to your customers, you can also head over to our website and sign up for a trial of our Helpshift platform. Or you can ask for a demo or a follow-up discussion from someone on our team, and we'll be happy to follow up with that with you. So with that, I'll thank you once again for all your time today, and appreciate all the great questions, and look forward to talking to you again soon in the future. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.